was a groundbreaking ceremony for a new factory.
Did she mention seeing anyone who was sick? Anyone on a plane, at the airport?
No, she said she was jet lagged.
The average person touches their face 3 to 5 times every waking minute. In between, we're touching doorknobs, water fountains, and each other.
Beth.
Mom?
No, go up to your room, honey.
So we have a virus with no treatment protocol and no vaccine at this time.
You had a seizure this morning, Beth.
Does she have a history of seizures
No.
and allergies?
As of last night, there are 32 cases.
Unfortunately, she did die.
Right. So can I go talk to her?
Mr. Amoff, your wife is dead.
What are you talking about?
Okay.
What happened to her? What happened to her?
Is there any way someone could weaponize the bird flu? Is that what we're looking at?
Someone doesn't have to weaponize the bird flu. The birds are doing that.
Watch this. It's transmission, so we just need to know which direction.
On day 1, there were 2 people, and then 4, and then 16. In 3 months, it's 1 billion. That's where we're headed.
They're calling out the National Guard. They're moving the president underground. People will panic.
Get away!
It will tip over.
The truth is being kept from the world.
Cook your samples, destroy everything.
Hello. I need you to get me the names of everyone who serviced this room. It's an emergency.
You can't panic now.
I know.
I'm gonna get you home.
I got people too, Dr. Cheever. We all do.
Don't talk to anyone. Don't touch anyone. Stay away from other people.
Get back in your car. We're not sick.
It's figuring us out faster than we're figuring it out.
It's mutated.
Yeah, our foundation, we had been funding a thing called the flu study to really understand how respiratory viruses spread. It's amazing how little was understood about how important schools are, different age groups, different types of interaction. And that gave us an experience. In fact, that flu study actually was the first time coronavirus was found in the community because the government was still saying you only test people who come from China, but we ran into people who had coronavirus who hadn't been travelers. So, that was like an early warning sign, even though the regulation said you weren't supposed to even look at that. So,
yeah, Willie, they have to be so careful. And you were talking about Seattle. We could talk again about Jay Inslee in Washington State. We could talk about Gavin Newsom taking early steps. But you read the New York Times today and read about these genome studies that have been done by hospitals in New York City, and they once again indicate the importance of moving early, of acting early, because most of the cases in New York, or an awful lot of the cases these studies are showing, came from Europe and didn't come from China. And you had the Deputy National Security Advisor, Pottinger, begging the administration in late January to cut off travel coming in from Europe. But Steve Mnuchin and Donald Trump, as we learned out in the Washington Post article this past weekend, refused to do that. And they refused to do that because they thought it would hurt the economy and it would hurt the stock market. Well, those, now we know, those were an extra 2, 3, I think it might have been a month. I've got to check the exact dates. But because they didn't listen to the Deputy National Security Advisor and continued having the flights coming in from Italy and the rest of Europe, so much of what New York's dealing with now has to do with those European travelers.
Yeah, that was an interesting bit of research that was in the New York Times because we think so much about China, but a lot of this came from Europe. You're right about that.
Mika, I was just checking the numbers on the European travel. So the two studies that have been made by Mount Sinai and the NYU School of Medicine, and they had remarkably similar conclusions that when the coronavirus started circulating around in February, most of the genomes point back to Europe and not China. And this is why that's important for future leaders to understand the importance in pandemics or epidemics of moving quickly. At the end of January, as I said, Deputy National Security Advisor Pottinger asked that all European travel be closed down. End of January. Donald Trump wasted a month, actually up to 5-6 weeks, and actually, because he was worried about the stock market, kept open travel from Italy, travel from Europe until March the 11th. That's when the European ban finally came into play. So